Hey everyone, welcome back. This is RayTube episode number 9, where we're breaking down practice exam questions so that we know how to approach these questions on the exam, go in there, pass the exam, and be done with it. So let's jump into it. A social worker has been working with a client at an outpatient facility who has made significant progress in managing their anxiety. During the start of the client's last session, the client offered the social worker a small gift as an expression of gratitude for all the help, as it is common practice within their culture to give a token of appreciation after successful outcomes. How should the social worker respond? A, tell the client, "Thank you, but I can't accept the gift." B, accept the gift and document the rationale for accepting the gift. C, decline the gift and tell the client that the only gifts that are acceptable must be given to the organization. Or D, ignore the client and continue with the session. So, like always, pause the video, reread through the question, reread through the answer choices, pick your best answer, unpause the video, and then we'll jump into the rationale. Okay. If you picked B, accept the gift and document the rationale for accepting the gift, that is the correct answer. Why? Okay, so these type of questions of, are we allowed to accept gifts or not? What about if it's this type of gift? What is about that type of gift? A lot of confusion, right? And I know when I was learning about this, I was like, wait a second. Are we able to accept gifts? Because during this time and like real life experience, like it was acceptable in this organization, but over here, it may not have been because of this, where we know the extremes, right? Where someone says, hey, I want to give you a house type of thing. It's like, well, yeah, I know we can't accept the house type of thing, right? But what about things like a thank you card? We can't accept a thank you card. And when I was doing research, and there will be a link below to this article as well. According to the article, Ethics Alive, Gifts from Clients, the Good, the Bad, and the Ethically Ugly. Some people may assume that NASW Code of Ethics specifically prohibits accepting gifts. It does not. It doesn't even mention gifts per se. The NASW code does have provisions related to gifts. Standard 1.06a advises social workers to avoid conflicts of interest that interfere with the exercise of professional discretion and impartial judgment. Standard 1.06b instructs social workers not to take unfair advantage of any professional relationship. Standard 1.06c says that social workers should set clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive boundaries with clients. Taken together, these standards certainly put social workers on notice that there are risks related to accepting gifts from clients. Thus, there are some situations in which accepting gifts would be clearly unethical. As a social worker, your primary commitment is to your client, standard 1.01. The main interest to consider is the impact of gift giving on the client. If gift giving is an authentic expression of the client's gratitude, then the principle of self-determination suggests that social workers should honor the client's wishes. The client may feel a sense of pride and satisfaction from being able to thank the worker with a gift. However, if the client feels exploited or manipulated, or if the client receives inappropriate services as a result of gift giving, then encouraging or accepting the gift would be unethical. And when we scroll back up to the question itself, the client has made significant progress, is doing it as a sign of gratitude to the social worker for helping throughout this process at the outpatient facility. And it's a small token, right? It's not a house type of thing. And it's not, hey, let me give you, $100 or something like that, like just raw cash type of thing. And again, it's within their culture during the final session, during the termination process. So there is no expectation of, oh, this is really going to influence the rest of this client's treatment or anything like that, right? So when we go back, So under what circumstance might accepting gifts be ethically justifiable? In broad terms, accepting gifts may be justifiable when they promote the principles of benefits, uh, doing good, particularly for the client, and non-maleficence, avoiding harm, particularly to the client. Assume that Clio, so in the article, they're using Clio as if Clio were the client. Assume that Clio comes from a culture in which gift giving is appropriate and perhaps culturally expected, even in professional relationships. Assume further that Clio, again, the client in this article, and it's linked down. I'm gonna have it linked in the description as well. Assume further that Clio may feel rejected or disrespected if you do not accept her gift as a gesture of thanks. Rejecting the gift could also have a negative impact on her progress in counseling. To accept the gift would do more good than harm. So actually accepting the gift is doing more good than harm in this situation, because it's not about, in this particular scenario, it's not about messing with the boundaries or anything like that. This is more on the acceptable end as far as gift giving goes, or gift accepting goes in that regard. Yeah, rejecting the gift could also have a negative impact on her progress in counseling. To accept the gift would do more good than harm, particularly if there are no risk or perceptions of exploitation, inappropriate boundaries, or biases in your professional decision making. So again, when we look at the question, just to read it again, a social worker has been working with a client at an outpatient facility who has made significant progress in managing their anxiety. During the start of the client's last session, so the last session, final session, termination, the client offered the social worker a small gift as an expression of gratitude for all the help, as it is a common practice within their culture to give a token of appreciation after successful outcomes. How should the social worker respond? So again, this isn't speaking to any exploitation. The social worker is saying like, hey, you really should, be doing this because I put in a lot of work or anything like that. And again, it says a gift as an expression of gratitude where, in their culture, this is what they do. It's not about manipulation or impacting the rest of treatment or anything like that. So when we go back down, along these lines, Standard A.10F of the Code of Ethics of the American Counseling Association states, counselors understand the challenges of accepting gifts from clients and recognize that in some cultures, small gifts are a token of respect and gratitude. When determining whether to accept a gift from clients, counselors take into account the therapeutic relationship, the monetary value of the gift, the client's motivation for giving the gift, and the counselor's motivation for wanting to accept or decline the gift. So we want to take all those factors into account, because again, how about someone gave you a thank you card, right? Rather than having a blanket rule about accepting gifts, the standard invites counselors to assess each situation, including the client's and counselor's motivation for accepting the gifts. If a client feels pressured into providing a gift, or if the counselor is motivated by greed to accept the gift, then accepting the gift would be unethical. Note also that this standard asks counselors to take the therapeutic relationship into account. If Cleo, again, in this article, Cleo is the client. If Cleo offers you a gift because she has a low level of trust in the relationship and wants to ensure your support, then accepting the gift may be tantamount to exploiting her vulnerability. If Cleo and you have an egalitarian relationship, then the risks of exploitation are lower. So again, this isn't necessarily saying you can't accept gifts. We just want to take all those factors into consideration, because we don't want to ultimately impact the relationship, cross those boundaries, impact treatment with the client. It's not saying that we can't accept gifts. It's saying that we want to take all these factors into account: the motivation for the client giving the gift, our motivation for accepting the gift. How much does it cost, right? Like if someone said, to use an extreme example, I'm gonna buy you, I want to give you a house. They're a very rich and wealthy client. They said, you know what, we did such great work together. Here's a house. Now we may be like, oh man, I would really love to accept that gift. We don't want to accept that gift because it's just too extravagant, it's too extreme, right? But what if it's a thank you card, right? Okay, Ray, what does all this mean? How is this going to help me on the exam if I get a question asking about whether to accept a gift or not? A general rule of thumb is that we don't accept gifts as it can be a boundary issue. And if we do, we want the gift to go to our agency/organization more so. So you might be like, wait a second, Ray, hold on. There was answer choice up here that says decline the gift and tell the client that the only gifts that are acceptable must be given to the organization. Now, must, they don't have to be given to the organization, right? They don't have to be given to the organization. But I even know in my real life experience, when I'm at a professional outpatient facility, when clients would want to give certain gifts, depending on what it was and everything, we're like, okay, you can kind of donate it to the organization rather than give it to that particular person, right? Where it wasn't because of their culture or anything like that. They just wanted to give something like just give a standard gift, a sign of appreciation, right? But when there are other factors in place, we want to take all of those things into account. So just to scroll back down. However, if the question on the exam describes how a client is attempting to give the social worker a gift, which is considered a normal standard custom in their culture, and or the question states that the social worker believes rejecting the gift will do more harm than good, and the gift is considered reasonable. So a client attempting to give the social worker cash as a tip may be considered unreasonable. So you may want to pick the answer that professionally and appropriately declines the gift and explains the reasoning why the gift is being declined. Thank you for the gift, but unfortunately I can't accept due to our policy. A client attempting to give the social worker a thank you card for helping them achieve their goals may be considered reasonable because, again, it's not a house or just raw cash or anything like that. It's a thank you card. Then accepting the gift from the client can be seen as appropriate because our reasoning for accepting the gift has the client's best interest at heart. Along the same lines, can you engage in physical contact, non-sexual, with a client? Yay or nay? To the viewer, can you engage in physical contact that's non-sexual with a client? Yes or no? The answer? According to the NASW Code of Ethics 1.10, physical contact, social workers should not engage in physical contact with clients when there is a possibility of psychological harm to the client as a result of the contact, such as cradling or caressing clients. Social workers who engage in appropriate physical contact with clients are responsible for setting clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive boundaries that govern such physical contact. So think about this, right? This, according to the NASW Code of Ethics, our playbook, our guidebook, our blueprint on how we should proceed professionally in these circumstances, in these situations, this isn't saying, again, outside of sexual contact, which is no sexual contact with clients, right? Are we allowed to engage in physical contact? This isn't saying no. It's saying it's not advised, but if you're going to do it, make sure that it's appropriate. It's the boundaries are set. So in this type of situation, let's say if a client is coming in and they offer a handshake, technically that's physical contact. Are we saying we're not allowed to give our clients handshakes? Right? And when we talk about giving a client a hug, if it's, again, the last session, they made significant progress. They said, I just want to thank you. And it's a respectful hug and everything. Appropriate. It's not boundary crossing or anything. Now, if the client is coming in every day looking for a hug, that's a little different, right? So again, The reason why I put this in here is because it's along the same lines as gift giving, where if someone said, are social workers allowed to accept the gift? Are we allowed to engage in physical contact, again, non-sexual, with the client? And our first instinct might be to say, no, we can't. No. Generally, yes. No physical contact outside of standard, handshakes and stuff like that. Generally speaking, accepting gifts may not be the best idea, but it does not mean that we can't. If we are going to do it, engage in physical contact and engage in accepting gifts from a client, we want to take all those factors into account to make sure that it's appropriate, it's not impacting the client in any negative way. It has their benefit in mind. Looking at ourselves, being self-aware and saying, is this gift appropriate? Am I accepting this gift out of greed, or can we, and honestly, anyone for that matter, can they look at this and say, yeah, I feel appropriate with, accepting this gift, documenting it in my notes, and having my supervisor, manager, whoever, the board, look at this and say, yeah, that's reasonable. Like, again, if a client said, here's a thank you card toward the, when terminating, thank you for everything. Here's a gift card. Here's a thank you card that says, thank you for all your help. I would be comfortable with having the board kind of review. Oh, Rashawn accepted a $2, $3, whatever dollar gift card that said, thank you for providing phenomenal care. Right. And again, there will be a link to the article in the description that breaks it down even further, because I know this is one of the questions that I would think about over time, where I'm just like, wait a second, can we accept gifts? Because I've seen it in this setting where it was okay, but then like in that setting, it wasn't okay. But then, I understand the extremes, like if someone wants to give you a house or like Super Bowl tickets or something like that. But then there's other situations where it's like, what about if it's like a thank you card or something like that? How do you kind of gauge it? So again, there's an article in the description that breaks it down a bit more. But all in all, generally, just like with physical contact, that's non-sexual, we typically don't do it, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it. We just want to take those factors into account and say, hey, what are our reasons for, what are the client's motivations for giving the gift? What are our motivations as a social worker for accepting the gift? What is the actual gift? Like the monetary value of it and everything? When is the gift being given? And overall, is it appropriate? Will me as the social worker, will this do more good accepting the gift because it's part of their cultural practice, etc.? Or will it do more harm declining the gift type of thing? So, all right, guys, that's it for today's video. This one was, again, might have been a bit of a tricky one, but now we know. So thank you, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with a social work friend, because we don't want to be licensed by ourselves. And you got this. You got this. All right, guys, I'm going to see you next video. Bye.